Toronto gets a lot of crap for average architecture, bland buildings, not thought through master plan communities or something. The Well, literally, it sets the record straight a little bit. Honestly, it's so sick.
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Tom Storey Show, your weekly real estate roundup podcast every Sunday at 9 a.m. We appreciate you being here. If you're watching on YouTube and you can see our three faces right now, all I want to say is please like this video. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. We are, Steve, very, very close to 2,000 subscribers. For a channel that is less than a year old. We're still a baby here, and I'm really enjoying the growth that we've seen. Are you excited about this, Steve?
Yeah, man, it's good. We got some catching up to do with some other people that are doing some good videos too. So that's why we brought on, I guess, the guy who apparently sets off all the podcasts here, who really gets you the views. So
yeah, we saw the view count on your episode of Canadian Real Estate Show. I was like, get Jordan on here immediately.
The people want to hear Jordan talk. Let's get him on.
Yeah, the people want to hear Jordan talk. Also, if you're listening on the audio platform, just want to say thank you. And if you haven't already, make sure to go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. Speaking of the best reviews of all time, I'd like to introduce our guest this week, Jordon Scrinko. No, did I say it wrong again?
Scrinko.
There we go. Scrinko. Jordon Scrinko has joined us from PreCondo. Jordan, you were actually our second guest ever on this podcast when we launched it a year ago. So
how many episodes in are you now?
It's almost 52.
Coming up on 50.
Holy, that's crazy to think.
Yeah,
I think this is 50.
This is number 50. Yeah, which is insane to think. I remember when Steve brought up this idea, I was like, man, I don't know. It sounds like a lot of work. and now we've been doing it every Thursday for a year, which is insane. So Jordan, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you being here. What's going on in your world?
It's crazy, man. I know you guys can speak at length about what's going on in the resale market. And generally what I tell people is the resale market is the leading indicator in the pre-construction market, right? Whatever you see in the resale market, you tend to see in the pre-construction market 30 to 90 days later, right? And that's exactly what we're seeing. So, I mean, it does depend on where projects are launching and what type of price points and incentives they're coming at. But, projects that are launching right now in the 905 specifically are blowing out, just selling out in a week, in a weekend, in some cases in
What's
hours.
905? What is that? That's kind of on the exterior of
It's like where you live if you lived in Toronto, Steve. Like not quite in the city.
It's the Brampton of the area.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's your Brampton, Hamilton, Markham, those areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is it only the outer pre-con launches that are going crazy? Is it the stuff in the city as well, or just the ones outside?
Just the ones outside, man. The stuff in the city's bleeding, hurting.
Why? That doesn't make any sense to me. Is it just pricing?
I think pricing is the big motivating factor. And then the delta in rents is gone, right? So it used to be that like a one bedroom in, downtown Toronto, $2,200 a month, a one bedroom in Hamilton, $1,700 a month. Now it's like a one bedroom downtown Toronto, $2,400 a month, a one bedroom in Hamilton, $2,300 a month.
Yeah.
So, but the difference being the pre-construction unit in downtown Toronto is going to cost you an entry unit $800,000, $750,000. In Hamilton, that same unit's going to cost you $500,000. So you've got a $200,000 spread in the price, but your rent is only $100, $200 a month less, right? So people are looking at that and going, well, maybe I buy in Hamilton or Oakville or Brampton or wherever.
That's so wild to me. Like so me and Steve had talked about really the last 6 months, like, okay, we don't know when the market's going to quote unquote come back, but when it comes back, and these are Steve's words I'm regurgitating, it's going to come back faster than we ever expected. So
are you saying that
you
I'm
see
right, Tom Storey, again?
I said you guessed something and you're kind of right.
All right, good.
But like, Jordan, did you see this coming back this quick? Because it was not looking good end of last year. And then we moved to 2023 and people like real estate again.
No, I didn't expect it to be this quick. Like I knew it was going to bounce. I'm obviously quite a bullish individual. But like I budgeted this year with the expectation of losing money from a business perspective. Like I budgeted burning money in order to keep operations at the level and not kind of regress in what we're doing. And it doesn't look like I'm going to get the slow year that I was hoping for. Obviously, nobody's ever hoping for that, but I was prepared for a very slow year, and it's not looking like it's going to be anything close to that.
And what indicators are you looking at? Because in me and Steve's business, it's obviously like appointments booked, showings booked on our properties, how many offers we're getting, just general, like the way buyers are feeling. On the pre-con side, is it like website clicks, signups? Is that what you're looking at and being like, wow, this is a lot more than I was expecting?
Also appointments booked. So, I mean, like traffic, for sure, web traffic does slow down when people are less interested in pre-construction. You see less clicks, you see less registrations for upcoming projects. But, it's not a massive difference. So like in the bear market, we were, probably seeing 60 to 70,000 website visits a month. And now we're seeing 80, 75, 80. Okay. So it's not a massive difference in traffic, but what is different is the conversations that our agents are having with those people who sign up on the website, and the conversion rate from, that first initial phone call to somebody agreeing to come in and sit down and meet with us, or meet over Zoom, or meet at a presentation center, that kind of thing.
So for anyone listening or watching that's thinking like, whoa, Jordon has a website that even gets 60,000 views a month. That's because you built out precondo.ca, which for what I understand, and again, I'm not really in this space, but your website was awesome. Like I would creep your website to find out stuff about projects I didn't know. I know you worked really, really hard on that, and you've actually sold it recently. So can you kind of walk us through, like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So we got, I call it sort of my unfair advantage. My background is obviously not in real estate. My background is in digital marketing. I've been doing search engine optimization and website development since I was about 13 years old. And so when I got into real estate, I actually got into real estate because I did search engine consulting for a realtor. He did really well with what we built out for him. And in that process, and in being in his office and being around him and seeing the deals happen and seeing how they happen, and seeing people review floor plans and make changes with builders on architectural plans, I got really interested in the real estate side of things. And I was like, this actually seems a lot more fun than building websites. So decided to get in real estate, and obviously just parlay that experience of digital marketing into real estate. What I realized really quickly, really early on, was, wow, like this is a very profitable industry to be a part of, but it's so fragmented because every agent and every team is doing their own thing. So you don't have these powerhouse companies doing $50 million a year in revenue. And so what that means is you have a bunch of small people doing things at their own scale that they're capable with. And so everyone's kind of doing digital marketing for themselves, or hiring a low budget sort of agency to do it for them. So what I realized was, oh, wow, this is kind of a blue ocean, because there's very few people who know what they're doing in this space. So built PreCondo. Took about 3 years before it was profitable, before it was generating leads, because SEO is a very slow process. It's just the way it is. You're kind of in it for the long haul. And then, we got to basically the third largest pre-construction website in Canada by organic visits. Obviously, we're striving for that number one spot, but we'll see. The differentiating factor between us and number one and number two is the two biggest sites don't sell real estate. They sell leads to realtors. Right. Mm-hmm. So Buzz Home and Condo Now, they don't actually sell real estate. So we're a full service company, obviously, that does fulfill those deals and all the rest of it. Basically, I was looking for partners because I had grown beyond my means and my day was just too hectic. Being in pre-construction, there's a lot of politics. You have to go to a lot of events. You've got to have a lot of lunches with developers, and it was taking.
You got to ride a lot of scooters.
You got to ride a lot of scooters.
Yeah.
And so it was just taking too much of my time. And I realized, look, what I really want to focus on is growing the brand from a marketing perspective, growing the website. And so I need to bring in partners. And so I sold a majority share of PreCondo to what I believe to be the best partners for me, which is iRise Realty. And they're a team who have been doing this for a long time, a lot longer than me, at a much larger scale. And so it just, it was a perfect marriage, put it that way.
Wow. And tell me if this is true. So you've never been someone that's shy about giving your opinions to the online world. But I have noticed something. since you sold a bit of the company off, you've been even more vocal about sharing your opinions to the Twitter world and the YouTube world. Is there any truth behind that? You're just feeling a little free these days?
I'm feeling a little free. The weight's off my shoulders. Put it this way, there is no longer a governing body that holds a license that I need anymore.
I don't need now you're the business owner.
Yeah.
You're not the operator in the day-to-day capacity of what most of us are doing, right?
Exactly. So I'm not too concerned with some of the powers that be. Put it that way.
If you were to look at, and I'm not saying this specifically just for the real estate industry, but anyone listening that's a consumer that runs their own business and create a roadmap. So I don't know exactly how long this took you, but you came from this from the beginning as a business owner perspective, built it out. We've talked kind of offline about this was always kind of something you were looking to do, right? Sell the site. You want to build it and get the eyeballs and then sell it. So most people in this industry run around like a chicken with their head cut off and go transaction to transaction to transaction, and then they die one day. That's basically what real estate sales is. How do you take yourself out of that rat race? If you could have what does it look like? How did you do it that you could now train other people okay, here's the game plan?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to recognize exactly that. As a realtor, you are a business owner. And so a lot of realtors, especially, when they're just getting on their feet, they're doing 5 deals a year or 10 deals a year or whatever. It's coming from networks and friends and family. And it's often there's, they're buying leads from here. Maybe they're paying for a little lead gen over here. Maybe they're doing some door knocking, cold calling. Oftentimes they get caught up in the mess and they're not really sure. So it's something I talk about a lot, like attribution and efficiency. They don't actually know where the results are coming from because they're doing so many little things on a small scale. They're not really sure what's driving the results, right? And oftentimes it's a compound effort. Someone signs up on your website, you have a call with them, it doesn't really go anywhere. Maybe they see your content a few months later, brings them back into your circle. It's really hard to know exactly how that deal originated. And so what happens is a lot of realtors just don't understand marketing. And so they don't understand that all a business is a collective of people. Sometimes that's just one person, right? Following a system of processes to deliver a desired outcome, right? So you have your process for lead generation, desired outcome is leads. Then you have your process for sales, desired outcome is appointments. And then you have your process for fulfillment, desired outcome is a happy client who achieved their goal with you and is going to refer their friends and family. Whether you have those processes documented or not, you have a process. Some realtors are better than others. Some just follow their intuition, but it is a process, right? And when a business becomes saleable is when those processes are very well documented, repeatable, and systematic. Because now if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I know my company's still going to sign 500 units this year. With or without me.
It's the tiger-proof analogy, right? If you get mauled by a tiger, your business can run without you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, here's what I look at as well. And maybe we're getting a little bit into the weeds here early on in this podcast episode, but this stuff excites me on the marketing side of things. Me and Steve, and you've done this as well, obviously with your YouTube channel, have been the talking heads of I think there's two main types of leads in real estate. There's property leads or, pre-con specific project leads. And then there's you leads. And the you leads is Jordon, I trust what you say. I don't know what to do, but I want to invest in pre-con. What project do I go after right now, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, that's what every single real estate agent should strive for, because the secondary ones are the leads where, okay, I just want this project. Yeah, I kind of like you, but if you can get me this project, I'll go with you. But if someone else, I'll go with them, right? Same idea as hey, this house I really like. You have the listing. I want to see it just because you have it for sale, but I don't really care about you. You're going to have to win me over, right? So it's the attraction type of marketing. Now, when your face is out there, you build the brand that is you, which is great, but then also harder to scale, obviously. Was there any thought behind when you originally built out PreCondo? I don't think your face is anywhere on that site unless you go to maybe the contact section. So when your leads are reaching out from a site that's getting 60, 70,000 views a month, is there any issue of they're reaching out just for the project and they're harder to convert versus someone that calls Jordon being I watch your YouTube videos, what do I do?
Oh, 100%. The conversion rate is not even close. But there's a way to band-aid that, and that is by taking that same educational content and putting it in front of those people after they register on the website. I mean, beautiful thing about cookies and retargeting, but also just emails. Once you have someone's contact information and they register on a specific project, I mean, a lot of people get really caught up in this. especially pre-construction brokers, they think like somebody who registers for Mirabella condos is a Mirabella buyer, right? They think, okay, cool, I have a lead for Mirabella. It's like, no, you don't. You just have a lead for somebody who thinks they want to buy pre-construction in Mimico. Has nothing to do with Mirabella.
Right.
They drove by the site, they saw the billboard. That's why they're registering for Mirabella. They don't know anything about the product. That's how they ended up on your website, right? And so you see this a lot. Some of the biggest pre-construction lead sale companies complain about this all the time. They're like, everybody always only exclusively wants to buy the leads for the new hot project. And they don't want to buy the leads for the project that's across the street that sold out 6 months ago. And it's like, they're the same people. They're the exact same people.
And why is
just
that?
A person
why
with
is
motivation. That? Why is what?
Why do they only want to buy the ones for, like, I think I know the answer, but why do they only want to buy the ones for the new project versus the one they're actually going to have to make a call and convert
Because
somebody?
they think it's an easy sale, right? They think it's just order taking. I'm going to call, this person's already interested in this project. I'm just going to ask if they want a 1 or 2 bedroom. I'm going to take their ID and send a worksheet to the builder, right? And the reality is that that's not what sales is. Like, sales is just, leads are just individuals with motivations to do a certain thing. Your job is to ask the right questions so you can understand their motivation and understand their goals and try to guide them to what you actually think is the best fit for them. That's it. That's all we do. We're trying to help people achieve goals. It may be upsize, it may be downsize, it may be invest for their kids' futures. Whatever it is, it's irrelevant what they signed up for. And so I take the same approach with PreCondo. Like, I try to push my educational content on the people who come into the website as much as possible, because it helps them make a more educated decision whether they use us or not, but it also increases the chance that they're going to decide to use us.
I remember, Steve, we were at a mastermind a few years ago in Toronto, and there's a few people like on a panel, and one person was talking about, like, you know, just the way they're running their touch point system with their clients every single month, and here's the results they're getting. Then someone was talking about some like new lead generate. I think it was like Boomtown or something at the time. And they both presented, and then all these hands went up, and every question was like, oh, tell me about that lead generation thing that just gives you opportunities. Instead of like, I can just follow this. It's so simple. Follow this system and just do it consistently, and people will call you, and you don't have to pay for the lead. And like, it just blows my mind how people always want the easy way out.
I think it was like a pay per click, like Facebook campaign or something.
It was something like that.
It was, and then like every agent in the room just swarmed to that person because they were having success with it.
Yeah.
But there was no, like, the hard work guy next door that was actually probably getting better results for less money. No interest in that whatsoever. It was all the click stuff. And I was actually just at something yesterday, similar type thing where I was talking to people. I'm like, because it's not my world. I don't pay for leads at all, ever.
I love paying for leads.
Yeah?
Absolutely love paying for leads.
Really? Because it is not my world. And so many people do it. And then they're like, oh, it's only $1,500. And then a referral fee, you know, if I get something. And I'm like, man, I got it notoriously cheap too, though. So, I mean, I would just prefer to build it off of my time rather than money.
I'm the other way around. I prefer to do both at the exact same time. So I'm producing the educational content for organic views at the same time as I'm forcing it out in front of hundreds of thousands of people for pennies on the dollar. So it's like I get the benefit of both organic and paid with the same content. It's like if I'm spending the time producing the content, I might as well shove it in front of people's faces as well and drive conversions on that. And like, our cost per deal through Facebook is less than $350. So
the ROI is insane.
Yeah, it's more than 10x. I mean, when I was in supplement sales, like, getting a 3x was like you hit a home run. You could put that case study on your website and people would be calling you.
Because I guess pre-construction real estate sales is essentially just high ticket sales.
This episode of the Tom Storey Show is brought to you by Masters Academy, presented by Richard Robbins International, happening July 5 and 6 at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Vancouver. Masters Academy is the premier real estate training event in Canada. It's a 2-day in-person live training event to help real estate professionals learn cutting-edge business development strategies directly from top producing producing agents flying in from all across the country. Masters Academy is returning to Vancouver for the first time since 2019. And you don't want to miss its unique learning formats of small giants, lightning rounds, and genius interviews that this year include AI strategies, marketing ideas for 2023, relationship mastery, and so many more topics that will fuel your business now and for years to come. Not only am I looking forward to seeing Tom in person, but also many previous guests from this show will be in attendance. And possibly this year's biggest attraction, the marketing guru Joe Polish will be presenting on the main stage, and that alone is worth the price of admission. So come learn with Tom and I from the masters of the Canadian real estate industry at Masters Academy, Vancouver, July 5th and 6th by reserving your spot using the link in the description below. And listeners of the Tom Storey Show save $200 off of their tickets. Yes, just by using our link in the show notes to reserve your spot. This event has helped me grow my own business and Tom's as well. From previously just making a living to creating a real estate business that provides me with not only the income, but also the work-life balance that I had only dreamed of previously. So buy your tickets today using the link down below and make sure you click on the Tom Show logo to save $200. And get ready to master your real estate career by learning from Richard Robbins himself, Canada's #1 real estate trainer at Masters Academy, July 5 and 6 here in Vancouver. So fly in, book a room if you need to, and come connect with other agents from all over the country and grow your referral network at the same time. And of course, use our link below for $200 off of your ticket. And now, back to the podcast.
That's, you can break it down any way you want, but the commissions are large. They pay more on pre-con mostly than they do on resale transactions, right? So,
yeah. You just have to wait a few years to
yeah, right. You don't get it right away.
Yeah.
Or if it gets canceled, you don't get it at all.
Is that just the treadmill though? Is that just like, you just gotta, it's like whatever, 100 leads in, you're gonna get 4 people on the phone. Maybe one of those will turn into a warm lead. Like, is it?
No, we convert Facebook leads north of 4%.
Wow.
So it's, you typically like 10 leads, 1 is great, 1 is okay, and the other 8 are straight to the trash. Just
right.
Email newsletter forever.
Yeah.
And sometimes years later, 1 will wake up, but yeah.
And I guess you also could look at like, okay, time involved. So obviously looking at the money spent versus the one that did convert, the ROI is looking amazing. But if you tracked what everyone's worth per hour, making the calls for the 8 leads that sucked, it's not like, I just want to make it clear to viewers, like it's not that simple either. Like there's a lot of time and effort put in. No, it's definitely not that simple. And also like very few people are converting Facebook leads at that level. Like the key to funny enough, the key to converting Facebook leads at that level is specifically video content. It's the only way it happens. Long form video content?
Both, yeah. Like short form for the inbound, and then also retargeting with the long form and email newsletter with the long form, video sales letters. Like it's the only way that you can convert at that level, because it's a lot like then at that point, it wasn't an organic original visit, but it is eventually, because they start following your content, they start watching the stuff you're sending them, and that same rapport that's built through organic is now built through paid. But the problem with this, and the reason nobody does it, is because it's the exact same amount of work as doing it organically.
Yeah.
So it's still not a shortcut, right?
Mm-hmm.
It still takes those hours of producing the videos. And I mean, you guys both know this, like you produce 10 videos, 1 takes off, the other 9 kind of just do okay. So it's the same thing with paid.
On my channel lately, they're not even doing okay. So that's...
Hey, you know what?
I would deal with okay.
Steve and I are at a race right now, Jordan, to get to 10,000 subscribers. Steve's beating me by like 50 at this point.
It's like a Mario Kart race.
But wait.
Like one person's in lead, then the other person, and it's just going back and forth.
But guess what? There's someone in 3rd place right now that just got the star in Mario Kart, is going to blow by both of us, and it's the guy in the middle of this screen. So it's actually a 3-headed race, because Jordan's right there too. Right.
Yeah,
there.
I think I'm like 200, 250 behind you guys, something like that.
Yeah.
But we took a building listing, which I'm really excited about, but regardless, it's eaten up all of my time.
Right.
So I think you guys are going to take this one home.
Well, Jordan, all you got to do is minus 38% on some Brampton home that resold, and you do another video on that, 25,000 views, 1,000 subscribers. It's game over. Yeah. Okay. So now let's get into like, if consumers are watching this and they're thinking about like, okay, I'm looking at pre-construction options. I like this idea. if you could look at today, now this episode will come out in May, at the end of May. If you're looking at like today, not projects that you're associated with necessarily, but just overall, what's exciting you right now in terms of maybe top 3 projects that you're looking at that you're like, okay, I would personally invest here.
Yeah, the next phase of Pinnacle Etobicoke is on the horizon.
Okay.
Not in the immediate future, but it's coming. And right now in this environment, investing in the developers like Tridel, Pinnacle, Concord, the people who can afford to build even if they don't get construction financing, which is a very short list, right? Those are people I'm looking at very seriously. Any developers who are institutionally backed and pricing aggressively because they need to as a form of momentum to keep the machine running. So there's also another one coming in the near future in Hamilton by Slate. So Slate's and so this one's exciting to me because I grew up in Hamilton. The developer grew up in Hamilton. They're heavily invested in the future of Hamilton, and the prices just make a lot of sense because they're again trying to build momentum and they're in Hamilton for the long haul. But right now is the time to be super choosy about what type of product you're looking at, for sure.
And it's funny because even those 3 you just talked about, none of them are in the core of Toronto, right?
Yeah, it's tough, man. The delta is so wide. Like you've got pre-construction in downtown Toronto launching at 1,600 and you've got resale across the street at 12.
I mean, this is what I've been talking about for 3 years, like yelling at the camera, being like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me, right? And
what is the argument though? Because we've got all these guys, other side of the argument, the not bull YouTuber guys that are talking cap rates and all this stuff, and none of this stuff makes sense, and it's all going to be terrible. What either are you promoting as the benefit, or what is the buyer looking for? Are they just thinking future appreciation?
Yes.
What is the end goal?
Yes, appreciation, 100%. But also, Toronto's it's a blue chip market, right? Like if you're investing in Hamilton or Calgary, you're taking a little bit more risk on for sure over the long period of time, right? 100%.
Right.
But you're doing so because the cash flow is better, because the incentives are better, the prices are lower. So there potentially is also more upside. There's just more risk.
I did a video this week on my channel where I broke down that I'm getting this crazy amount of people that have like $140,000 down. And for me, that'll get you into an investment property. So they're like, cool, I'm going to go buy something and I want to buy this with my 140 grand because I want cash flow. And so I gave 2 examples of what you can buy with that amount down. And I think it was like 26 and something else % down the run there. And it was still like $400 and $550 or something a month that you're negative.
Right.
Right. So all these people are like, but what about this investment that I'm making? I'm like, that's not what's happening here. My market is very similar to yours, where you're going to take a loss, but you're expecting that 6.5% return each year in appreciation.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, like, the truth is, positive yield at 20% down doesn't happen in Toronto. It doesn't happen in Vancouver. It doesn't happen in New York.
Does it happen in Hamilton or Etobicoke or Scarborough?
Not Hamilton, not Scarborough, not Etobicoke, not Scarborough. You'll maybe break even on some projects in Hamilton because they're closing in 5-6 years. So if you assume 3% rental inflation a year, you might get to neutral. Of course, some of the pro formas that brokers and developers send out show cash flow neutral or even positive. But when you look at the asterisks and read the assumptions, you're like, okay, well, these assumptions are based on absolute best case scenario, which might happen, right? But I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch. So
what's the actual like break even point you figure percentage wise down payment? What do you 40, think a break 40? Even is?
Yeah, 35, 40.
Okay, because I just did it on both of those examples, and I was like, okay, your break even point in Surrey was on the 2 examples I used 39 and 43%. Right, which is higher than I thought it was going to be.
And people always ask me, well, some of these downtown products are still selling, so who's buying? And I'm like, look, the fastest growing segment of buyers in pre-construction for us in the core, consistently over 5 years, every year this percentage increases, is people buying for their children. Wow. That's why they're buying the pre-construction, is because their kids are going to be out of school at that time. It aligns well. and they're not doing 20% down. Most of them, when I tell them, all right, it's time to go get your mortgage pre-approval, they're like, well, I'm not getting a mortgage. So can I just send a net worth statement? Right. And it's like, of course. Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. But yeah, no. So it's like the people buying $1,600 a foot condos in downtown core, I think for the most part, I can't imagine you're not aware that you're going to cash flow negative on that. Like
I'd hope so.
We show it in our marketing. It says right there, negative cash flow. Like,
well, you show it, but 95% of other pre-con agents maybe don't.
Yeah, but I think in the GTA, especially when you're spending $800,000 for a junior one bedroom, like I think people throw it into the mortgage calculator and look.
God, I hope so. I hope so.
Me too.
But I'm thinking like if it's me, maybe it's me 10 years from now looking at a pre-condo, like 5 years from now, hopefully
You hear what he said, Jordan? He didn't say pre-construction. He said pre-condo.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. He's rebranded.
Yeah.
But so I'm at a spot where, okay, my mortgage is paid. Now I'm going to go buy an investment property. Personally, I look at it as I always want a mortgage. I don't even mind feeding that thing $1,500 a month when I have no mortgage on my principal residence. And I think there's a ton of people doing that. But we have, for some reason right now, we've got a listing downtown. And the people coming into downtown Vancouver that are looking at high-end condos, like people can't understand when they're working a 9-to-5 job making $55,000 a year, how much money other people have. Mm-hmm. They have no idea. And they're like, how can somebody ever afford this? And then you got some guy that just immigrated from who knows where, and he's got $7 million cash. And you're like, it's not super common, but it's not uncommon. Yeah. And how then do we as Canadians even comprehend what's going on? I think that's a lot of the negativity online is because you can't comprehend that those people are out there, and there's a ton of them.
Yeah, I mean, I was even looking at the net worth study, and it's like, how many households are there in Canada with over $30 million US net worth? I think it's like 52,000 families, something insane.
Jeez.
Wow.
And so it's like there's a lot more family and passed down wealth than most people are aware of. And the amount of clients who call me up and they're like, hey, I got 3 kids. I need to buy them each a condo under $1 million. What do you have pre-construction? Ideally, I'd like to have them all in the same building if possible.
Wow.
It's like that happens every day in this city, right? I wish my parents did the same. But no, I mean, like it's pretty common. It's very common.
Last week, I had a reporter from Bloomberg call me, and he was just like taking quotes for a story that was coming out, and it was basically based on how quick the market had rebounded, at least so far, right? It's still early days here of knowing how long this is going to go, what's the summer going to look like. And he was basically like, I don't know what you can tell me that will make me believe this makes sense. And I was like, I hear you, man. Like, other than the fact that inventory is historically low, I get it. Like, rates haven't dropped. Sure, there's more confidence because Bank of Canada held. And he's like, we've looked at all the economist models and none of them can explain it either. Like, what is
this Ari?
This was Ari.
Sounds like Ari.
This was Ari. And Ari then said, okay, well, do you have any clients that got help from Bank of Mom and Dad? And I said, yeah, we have lots. He's like, well, any of them talk to us? And I called 5 of them. None of them were like, no, I don't want to have my name printed, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, well, now let's shift the story. And how about people that didn't have help that have given up? Are they willing to talk? And I reached out to a few, like, and everyone's like, doesn't want to get their name printed, right? And I was like, I'll post on Instagram and see if I can help you as well. But I was like, do you want to talk to anyone that didn't have help? And this isn't like saying anything about Ari's great, good reporter, and just news in general, is that he's like, do you have any people that I was like, but we have people that didn't have help that figured out a way to get into the market. Do you want to talk to them? And he was like, no, not really. So, it just shows you like the narratives and the news and everything. And I just found that very interesting where it's like,
but I think it was Ben Tal now that said, I think he said 30% of first-time buyers are getting help. But now 10% of move-up buyers are also getting help from their folks.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, which is, you don't think that that's something where it's like, okay, my second move, hopefully I have equity, but there's still, and that's part of the wealth transfer, right? There's a lot of parents out there that have a lot of dough that don't mind helping out their kid. Turns out you love your kids when you have them, and you want them to do good, so you're willing to do that.
Okay, let's shift here for a second. I want to talk about winners and losers. And I know this is something that TK and Daryl have talked about recently. I just put out a video on it. And my video is more specifically focused on resale market. Okay, the last 18 months, Canadian real estate, who's winning, who's losing. If we made a similar list, but it is just a pre-con list, a pre-condo list for winners and losers. If you look at the last 2 years, where do people fall on either side of that?
Okay. I can't talk about specific developments,
Of course.
or developers. But look, if you bought something that you're closing on today and you bought it within the last 2.5, 3 years, it's problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, there are some developers out there that like to build fast and deliver really, really quickly. So they sell and then they deliver quick, and their timeline is between, launch and closing is a lot tighter than some of the other developers. Those buyers are in tough situations. You can see it on the assignment market because they're all assigning their original launch units for less than they paid, right? The ones that do need to get out of their contracts. Individuals who bought multiple units thinking that they would close on maybe one and assign two, those people are having extreme difficulties right now as well. And anybody who, I was just looking at, 80 units that we closed at the beginning of this year at 2 projects in Etobicoke, and I was looking at what our clients paid for them on their launch days in 2017 and 2018. They've all made a ton of money.
Yep.
They're all positive equity massively. Now they had good prices and they had a long build cycle, so that's why. But they did exceedingly well.
So it's really just a timing thing. You can look at certain developers as well, I guess. But is it fair to say if you bought in 2017, 2018 into 2019, you're okay in terms of if your goal was to, when this thing is done, it's going to be worth more than I paid for it, right? Mm-hmm. But if you bought 2020, 2021, 2022, or let's say 2020, 2021, it's like, and you're like coming up to closing, you might be in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And do you guys still have a ton of is assignment common? Because most of our developers here do not allow assignments of their contracts. You can usually actually tell if it's a bit of a junior developer because they do allow them.
Yeah, no, they allow them here. You just can't list them on MLS.
You're allowed to list them. It's just I don't think anyone's buying them right now, unless you can. Has that changed?
They're selling. Yeah, they're
selling for. Are any of them selling for more than they paid?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question. This has brought up an amazing question for that side of the business. Then, so CREA has just announced that exclusive listings can no longer be advertised.
Yeah,
and if it's an assignment that that's not the original, can't be listed on MLS or whatever. What does that do now? Because that's basically takes away all the email campaigns. They're all gone.
No, I think that falls in new construction. So it's not a part of the new rules. It's not
real property.
Yeah.
In the same way that RICO stays away from BRAs and pre-construction.
No, they do.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Because with that rule, what I see coming is, they're like commercial is exempt, and there's massive land assemblies where the developers nobody wants that information public, so they don't want to be on the MLS. And now the developers are going to say, well, or the listing agent's going to say, well, that's commercial property, but it's zoned residential. It's going to be all sorts of messes with it. So I just wonder if that's one of those things that, I guess you're technically flipping the paper. So then can you advertise it?
I think you can.
We'll see.
I think you can because it's not real property. Yeah.
I was told by someone at a big bank that they were giving out pre-qualification letters or full approvals to people that bought pre-con in 2018, 2019, 2020. And they're honoring the rates that they gave back then. So some people are closing on projects now getting 2%. It's one of the big 5 banks. I don't know if they all do it, so I don't want to say that you can figure it out probably, but they're honoring it until final closing and not rechecking statements or anything. Maybe they should, but that's a whole nother conversation. So there's some people as well that bought, and even if it's not looking pretty right now, if they're good to close, they're still closing with rates from previously, which I didn't know that was a thing. Did you know about that?
I don't know from 2018. I've never heard of that, but we do have a bunch of people who closed with was it 2 or 3 year? I think it was a 3-year rate hold from RBC.
Yeah. So I've heard from RBC they'll hold it, like, even if it gets delayed by 4 extra years, they'll hold it till the project's ready.
That's remarkable.
So don't quote me on that. Like, speak to RBC Mortgage Specialist if that's something you're looking at. But I didn't realize
product everybody's looking for now, Tom Storey.
Well, I'm thinking though, if you're buying pre-con today, that's a product I'm going to look for.
I think, but everybody should. I think a lot of the people buying pre-con today, think that rates are going to be lower by the time they close.
Yeah,
I don't think you're in the market for pre-construction if you're under the assumption that rates have a good chance of being higher in 4 years when you close than today. Because if that's your assumption, then why on earth are you paying more than resale market value for a condo future?
Yeah.
Right?
It makes no sense. Like, mathematically,
inherently, you must be bullish on the future of the condo market in the short-term future in order to make that bet.
What does Jordon think about that statement that those people are betting on that? Do you think we're going to be, let's say 4 years from now, higher or lower than now?
Lower.
Yeah.
I hope so, for the sake of the economy. Like, I hope things get figured out, that they bring rates down to where they want it to be.
I think rates are at a great spot right now. For the overall economy, I think rates are at a great spot right now. I think that would be a really nice place to be long term.
Yeah, we'll see.
Steve, I've got someone calling me right now that wants to talk to you that has a variable rate that they got in 2021, and they want to yell at you.
I'm shocked. Are you guys not just blown away by the amount of people, I'm speaking to anyway, that are still on variables? And I'm like, guys, you can lock in right now at 4.79 for 5 years. And they're like, I disagree. I'm going to ride my 6.5.
If you're already this deep, based on at least the wording, you think at some point it's going to go down next year. If you're already this deep, why would you lock into the fixed rate, even if it's lower? Because then you got to pay a penalty to get out of it. Like, if you're already this deep, just keep going. Is what I have personally done on one of my properties. So I'm really just talking from me. Jordon, you had put out a tweet recently. I'm still on Twitter. I just kind of dabble. I don't post as much as I just creep. Mm-hmm. Saying that there was a list of developers that have never let you down. Mm-hmm. Can you share that list? I think that's interesting.
Yeah. Tridel, Pinnacle, Greywood, Diamante, which is now Mirabella Development Corp. But same team. Yeah. When I say never let me down, right? Because there's obviously a much longer list of developers that I've sold for, been happy with, and have great relationships with. When I say never let me down, I mean occupancy came up on that building and my phone wasn't lighting up with problems and issues, and I can't reach the builder. I can't get through to someone. Their customer service is crap. Nobody's responding to my Terry-on request. When are they going to show up to fix the drywall, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Like, I mean, just everything went smoothly. If people needed a little bit of extension, a little bit of help, it was granted. Nobody was holding them to the letter of, oh, well, if you need an extension, it's going to be $1,200 a day. And like, people were, basically good customer service, and the quality of the product was reflected versus what they were sold on.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, everything aligned.
In my resale world, right? Even if I see an old building on Bay Street built in the late 80s, if I see it was built by Tridel in the late 80s, I'm like, still probably pretty good. Like, yeah, maintenance fees are higher, but you're going to get it lower per square foot if you want to be in that area. But so that holds true for a long time. I want to ask you about Ontario versus other markets, and why is it that we are the one that has interim occupancy? Why can't we just do this nicely? Why can't we just get our keys and the entire building's ready and we move in and it's nice? Why do we have to look at amenities being built and elevators that the construction workers draw funny things on the inside? It's why is this happening?
First of all, for people like me that don't have this issue, explain what it all means in the beginning, because there is, like, you have people moving in to properties where there's no occupancy permits.
Well, no, you have to have the occupancy permit. You have to have the occupancy.
Explain it to me. I don't understand.
Yeah. So the units have to be ready and livable by the city standard. You get the occupancy permit, but the building's not ready for final closing. Maybe amenities aren't done, the boarding's not off the elevators, maybe some hallway work needs to be done, whatever. And that can be anywhere from, like, the fastest I've seen occupancy to final close was like 42 days. So, but like, and I've seen it take over a year in some cases. Wow. Which is particularly brutal in some cases, because like I saw one building take occupancy at like 2.5 and now rates are 5, and it's finally closing today. So you've seen your interest rates double since the time you moved into your unit, but also you should have got a rate hold. So, I mean, anyways, the point is, during that period of interim occupancy, you got to pay your occupancy fees, which is interest only payment on the balance 80%, which you can waive if you just pay off the condo at time of occupancy. Then your maintenance fees and your estimated property taxes. Unfortunately, I can't tell you why, because I actually don't know why Ontario is unique in this instance. I think it would go a lot better for everybody if this wasn't the case, because it's quite annoying, especially when you're renting it out and there's no title yet. It's just a pain.
So there's no title, and then your actual mortgage also doesn't fund. You're getting some sort of interim financing.
You're paying rent to the developer based on is it based on prime versus what you still owe them? Is that how it works, Jordan?
Yeah. So the interest only portion of whatever balance you have, you owe the builder, which may be 80% in most cases. It may be 0 if you agreed to waive that on occupancy. So you can pay the condo off to the developer on occupancy if you get approval to do that, right. And they're agreeable to that. But yeah, no, it's so you're paying occupancy fees to the builder, because the builder's still paying their construction financing, they're paying their land loan if they have one, but there's no mortgage, so they don't have your money from the bank yet. So you're paying them as if they were your bank for that.
So this must have been a measure brought in by somebody to just reduce their costs of carrying.
But could you not argue it's also the city speeding it up to bring more rental units to the market, and it's actually a good thing on the other side because they're ready earlier? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess you're ready 6 months earlier on average. It's typically how long it takes. So
I've always given a lot of props to the pre-construction industry in the way that they market things. I think they are phenomenal at marketing, way better than what we do on the resale side of things, in terms of just how the buildings look, those sexy videos of those good-looking people doing things around the area. I'm like, wow, that could be me one day, right?
I want to live there, yeah.
Yeah. And then what they also do is, the den became a very big thing in condo floor plans, and then the den got a little smaller and they started calling it a study. But now, Jordan, there's art galleries in condo. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, this was actually an old launch. This is a building you're probably very familiar with, 87 Peter.
Oh, yeah.
And so the floor, I was just flipping. I'm always looking at old floor plans. I'm doing comps and stuff and trying to understand the resale market versus pre-construction market, make apples to apples comparisons. And that floor plan I dug up was basically, 318 square foot or 381 square foot studio, where there was a super long corridor, like a bowling alley corridor. And instead of, normally you wouldn't call it anything. You wouldn't call it a corridor. You wouldn't call it a hallway. It would just be called nothing. It just shows on you just see it on the floor plan, and it's just, okay, that's my hallway. The developer in this case, their marketing team for sure. And this guy, I hope he got a raise for this one. He decided to rename that hallway and labeled it on the floor plan. So you've got your foyer, and then you've got the hallway, which is actually labeled as an art gallery, and then your living / dining / sleeping / everything, because it's a studio.
I feel like if I was younger, I would have gone in that hallway and I could put my hands on each side and jump up like I was Spider-Man. Maybe I'd still do it at this point in my life, but that's more what it looked like to me.
I can think of a floor plan last year, a very prominent builder in Surrey that would work well in there. Like the corner units had these crazy hallways, and then the second bedroom was like 7 by 7. And the guy's like, oh, it's 850 square feet. I'm like, I think you've got about 250 square feet of hallway. Right, that would actually work well. So I would give that guy a raise for sure.
That's why I tell people. Sorry, go on.
It's just funny to me that it also happened to be the smallest unit in the building, like as if the person buying the most entry level suite in the building has a collection of important NFTs or Picassos that he has to hang on the wall. Right? He bought the cheapest unit because it's all he could afford, but probably because of his big art collection, presumably.
Yeah, well, the sale thing was also like, this unit is not only the smallest, but it's actually also the best per square foot in the building, where normally it's the opposite because the small ones cost the most.
Right.
It's like, yeah, because of the 380 something square feet, 150 of it is livable, right?
Yeah. It's also funny to me that like people get really upset about this stuff, especially on Twitter. Like Twitter's not a real place, man. It's like a bunch of people getting mad.
Does anyone say anything positive on Twitter ever? I thought it was only negative.
No, exclusively negative stuff. Yeah, you go there to feel bad. So my whole thing these days is like I make my controversial post and then I exit Twitter and mute notifications and reply to nobody.
Just go in a week later and be like, oh, this was funny.
Oh, this one upset a lot of people. Yeah. But yeah, it's unbelievable in there, man. But yeah, people get really upset about that. They're like, I can't believe developers are labeling us as an art gallery. And I'm like, come on, man. Do you actually think any buyer is reading this floor plan and going, oh my God, an art gallery? Like they see through it. Nobody's that stupid. Like give people some credit. For the love of God, give buyers a little bit of credit. Yeah. They're not morons. They're pretty educated people. They're not actually looking at this floor plan going, how luxurious. Like there's an art gallery.
So what makes a good floor plan? If you're looking at floor plans for new construction for clients, let's talk about 2-bedroom here, because I think 2 bedrooms are getting smaller and smaller and putting bedrooms beside each other. And like, so what's a good 2-bedroom floor plan in today's market for pre-con?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair about the point of 2 bedrooms getting smaller and smaller, it's not just greedy developers. It's also just a function of what you see. Like Tom, when you visit Dundas Square Gardens or grid condos, you go into a one in Den and it's pretty apparent there's 3 people living in there.
True.
Right? You know what I mean? And so like market whatever the market is doing it ends up getting reflected in new construction. Like that's how it works, right? And so developers are realizing like these 650 square foot one in Dens are really tough to move, but our 450 square foot junior 1-bedrooms they sell immediately, even at a higher PSF, so they're more profitable. Well, what do you think the developer's going to do? Clearly, that's what the demand is for, right? I think a good floor plan, like obviously the best case scenario is you have a narrow sort of boutique building, you know what I mean? And then you get your split 2-bedroom in as small as 700 square feet with direct windows on both sides, and still a living and dining that's 11 feet wide or wider, and bedrooms that are 9.5 by 10-ish on each side. That's like the perfect investor 2-bedroom. Very few buildings do it because most buildings are square or more rectangular, so they're not as elongated, and so you have just too much corridor. You have just too much depth on the unit, so you can't do that. That's why you get the interior bedroom and the one with true natural light. Generally speaking, obviously, you just want to watch out for a ton of wasted corridor space, and like check the dimensions, man, because the couch drawings on floor plans, you don't know how big that couch is, man. Don't use that as your barometer of, oh, wow, look, a sectional fits beautifully here with a coffee table. The other thing that's been really pissing me off lately is some developers have decided to stop coloring in support columns. So the support column will be on the floor plan, but it'll just be the outline. And so if you're not paying attention, you think it's just a little end table or a little piece of accent furniture. Whereas before it was always, well, they were dark and colored in, so that's obviously a support beam. And so, yeah, that one really annoys me.
Are you guys starting to get the like mini appliances everywhere? Because that's what we're seeing all over.
That's been here for a while.
And it's just like when you look at the floor plan, you're like, okay, there's the fridge, but you don't realize the fridge is like 13 inches wide.
We don't call them mini in the industry, Steve. What we call them is European.
Luxury. It's luxury.
Euro. It's luxury Euro appliances. But also the thing with young people, I can't remember, was it Tridel that showed me the study on this? Anyways, I think it was Tridel. They shop for groceries every 3 days on average. The ones that even bother to cook.
Unless you hang out with Tom and then you DoorDash McDonald's every time I've been to his house because he won't cook me a breakfast.
It's because you're a guest. I want to make this an easier process for you. And it's Uber Eats, by the way. Here's my question, Jordan. I've thought about this, like, in a perfect world, I'm like, okay, this is the lot size I want in this neighborhood. This is what I want my house to look like. Like actually the house I live in right now, the house across the street from me that I look at every single day, I'm like, shit, that's the house I want. Like I know it. So let's say money doesn't matter to you at all, and you're building your dream condo. So who's the developer? Where's it located? How big is it? Like tell me the perfect place. Money doesn't matter. You're building a Sims condo, and anywhere you want in Toronto that you can have. What does it look like?
Don't you feel like you acclimate though? Don't you feel like your dream, the house you're in now was kind of your goal house a few years ago?
100%.
The condo you were, you just kind of acclimate. I know I feel that way with real estate goals. I was like, here's my goal. I hit that, and I was happy for all of 3 days.
If that. Normally it's like 24 hours.
And then you wake up and you're like, gotta make my calls. It has to be in Toronto.
No, anywhere.
Okay, because I just bought a lot in Costa Rica.
Okay.
Now, if money wasn't a problem, the lot would have been a lot bigger, and the house that I'm building would have been a lot bigger. To me, like, if it had to be in Toronto, that's tough, man. There's so many good little pockets.
Who would you hire as a developer to build this specific unit for you?
Ooh. Old Stonehenge, probably.
Okay.
Probably Old Stonehenge. Most likely. Something really unique, like the One Roxborough building, Hill and Dale. The units in there are absolutely stunning. Something very similar to that in fit and finish. With one of those two. Have you been in that building, Tom?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh man, it's remarkable. It's a piece of art.
You want a low-rise condo, so there's less people, less elevators?
Without question, boutique building.
Yep.
Ideally, best case scenario is like the smallest unit in the building is 1,000 square feet. Because then the likelihood of any of these units being investor purchased are slim to none. Everybody lives there. Everybody cares to some degree about their neighbors and keeping the peace. It's just like the best case scenario, right? And then also, plenty of elevators.
Yeah. An elevator for every unit. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? And you talk about like, what do we perceive as being luxury or saying that we've made it or success or whatever. And typically with hotels, it's like, well, there's not that many rooms in the hotel and it's very boutique and everything's about you. And even yesterday when I was sitting on my front porch and looking at my street, and I live in a nice area that costs good money, right? Like I worked really hard to get to this point in my life. And I'm like, oh, all the homes around here have front porches. But then recently I was in Rosedale dropping someone off and I'm like, these mammoth $9 million homes don't have front porches. And my wife was like, yeah, because they don't want to, like, they're all in their backyards. They want privacy. They don't want to look at anyone else. So it's funny as like what we perceive expensive things to be, whether that's staying at Four Seasons or the luxury element of things, is that people don't bother you, that you're private. You have the pool that no one can see into. People put a lot of money and value on just like people leaving them alone, which is kind of funny because the more money you make, it's like the lonelier you are as well.
Yeah. And I think also there's just a degree of like, it's hard to conceptualize, if I had that much money, would I be interested in this? Because you kind of just look at it the way you look at it today with your perception on the world. And so for me, like, like valet buildings, I'm like, I don't want a guy to go get my car.
Right.
That's annoying. I don't want a guy to carry my groceries up to my unit. That's annoying. Leave me alone, dude. I will do that myself. Like, but like, who knows? Maybe you get to a point in your life and you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to do shit anymore. It is really interesting how you acclimate and change over time to different levels of success.
Should have asked you this at the beginning, but with the acquisition of PreCondo, you had mentioned that of the big 3 sites, you're the only one that doesn't sell directly to agents. Is there a path we go down here in the future that now PreCondo is, because you're the owner and no longer just the operator on everything, that you build that as a lead gen site as well for the industry? Or are you staying away from that?
Staying away from that.
Okay.
Yeah, staying away from that. Lead sales is a particularly brutal model to be involved in because, as you guys alluded to earlier, realtors are always looking for the silver bullet. And so somebody signs up, they buy $500 of leads from you. They don't immediately do a deal. Now they're out the door. And so now instead of employing 20 really good sales reps being very close with them, teaching them everything I know, and being available to the clients who know who I am and want to talk to me. Like maybe not facilitate the transaction, but be there through the transaction for those people. It's very doable, right? It's very doable to have that skilled sales force. But then farming the lead, sending the leads out to anybody, now I've lost all control of what that interaction looks like. And that can burn a brand pretty quickly. Someone's like, every time I sign up on this pre-condo website, I get called by some idiot who knows nothing about the project, right? And then
it'd almost be like if you did that, you made the people that you were sending the leads to go through a training course or something, or I don't know, you qualify them right before they were even willing to pay you. I don't know.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, it's not just about like the revenue. Like I don't think like the margins would be as good doing that, just because again, it's a lower ticket sale. You're selling leads instead of real estate now. But also then I lose that part of the business where I get to help people design their custom suites and, talk to developers. Like every week I get called out by a developer who's like, hey, we're thinking of launching in 6 months. Can you come look at our draft floor plans? Can you come give us ideas on incentives and what we should do and how we should position the building and do these amenities make sense? Like that's the fun part of my job. And I would lose all that.
Can you turn that part of your job into full on consulting, pay me to come in and have these conversations, right?
Yeah.
Right now, I just get like free coffee, which is cool too.
And allocation.
Allocation, of course. That's what it's really for. Yeah.
That's the big thing, right? Because for somebody how does somebody even try and break into pre-condo? Because you hear these guys pre-construction. I don't want to. You've Kleenexed that term now. I don't want you to.
I'm trying to, yeah.
But like, how does an agent get into that? Because these guys show up with whatever 20 of their own buyers, they get 20 units, and they hammer them all out to 10 different agents, and the building's done. Mm-hmm. How do you get your foot in the door?
You join my team because we have more good leads than we can handle, and also because you have to make a decision very early in your career. Do I want to be everything, or do I just want to be a really good sales rep? Do I want to learn lead gen? Do I want to spend half my week on lead gen versus sales, or do I just want to focus on sales? Now, if you're the type of person who's like, no, I want to be my own boss. I want to learn everything. I want to have the expenses associated with running a team or a business or just running it for myself, and you decide pre-construction is the avenue you want to go down. What you should do, what my advice and what I did, right? I haven't been doing this as long. Like if you look at like the OG platinums, like, there's a handful of them, less than 10, and they've been doing this for 15, 20 years, right? I've been doing it for like 6. So how did I get access and preferential treatment with some of the biggest developers in the city? Well, I picked their projects that I believed in for whatever reason, location, price, whatever the reason is, future growth of the neighborhood. And I would sell the leftovers. Mm-hmm. Right, which sometimes was better value than the new launches.
Right.
And so instead of coming to a new launch, getting my 5 allocations, selling my 5 allocations, see you later, I'm going to the next launch, I would just stick around and do 40, 50, 60 units over 6 months. And the developer's going to remember your name, because those 6 months post-launch are way harder for them than the launch, right? There's all the hype's died down. No one even knows about the project anymore. No one's searching for it. So that's what you do to build those relationships. And then instead of trying to be someone who has platinum everywhere, just focus on a couple of developers that you really like and trust and consistently deliver for you. As a solo agent, you don't need to do every launch. You just need to do 2 or 3 a year, and you need to do very well at them. And that's it. Mm.
I think what Jordon said in a long form way there is find a condo papa, as he's very nicely said before, or find a pre-condon, and that's what you need, right? I thought it froze there because I didn't get a smile from either of you on that.
It just wasn't funny, Tom.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's 2 ways. You either build your own name or you're building someone else's.
Right.
That's it. That's the way it works, right? And so some people will tell me like, I'm generating leads and I'm getting units from X platinum agent. Like they're going to allocate,
right?
They're going to let me take from their allocations. And I'm like, okay, well, the problem is now you're on that treadmill forever. Mm-hmm. Your name is never on a deal with that developer. Their name is.
You're renting your success at that point, right? It could be taken away from you. You don't own it.
Yeah, it's just something I've wanted to do, particularly with my channel, is to try and figure out a way to kind of break in, I guess, maybe just even for my own information and education, almost like, I know it would probably not go so well, but almost like review projects or, get some sort of door in there, because there's a lot of cool stuff being built and there's a lot of not cool stuff being built. And I guess telling someone what they're building is not cool would not go very well, right?
Yeah. So you do have to be careful. I have been burned by the hot stove.
Yeah.
I have been blacklisted for saying certain things, which were just my honest opinion. It's not like I'm out there like shitting on a development because I just don't like the developer. Like if I'm shitting on a development, there's a reason. But I have stopped doing that. So sometimes people will comment on my videos and be like, Jordon, like, why haven't you reviewed XYZ? And I'm like, well, there's a reason that if I really like the site, it's on the channel. If it's not on the channel, there's a reason, right?
Totally.
There's a guy on YouTube that I'll go to watch like movie reviews if I'm willing to like download a movie or something. And he did the same thing on his channel like 2 years ago. He's like, I'm only now reviewing movies I liked. I'm not going to waste my time on the crappy stuff. So if you see a video from me on a movie, it's because I liked it. I'm like, all right. So then moving forward, I just go to his channel, look at his past videos. I'm like, okay, these are all recommended.
Yeah. And then also, it's great too, because if you review a project or you produce content on a specific project and you rank organically for that, and it generates a lot of interest, it's very hard as a developer to say you're not a platinum turnaround. You're not invited to this event. Trust me, it's very hard. I remember there was 7 years ago, there was a development that I ranked first in Google for. And I went to the event because I knew when it was. And they're like, oh, you're not on the list. And I was like, okay, Google your project. Here's my card. Google your project. I got a call in the parking lot like 10 minutes later.
Come on in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because like, look, man, everybody who Googles your project is going to end up on my list. And I'm either selling them your project or the one down the street.
Well, this may be like a pretty arrogant spot to come from, but I think let's face it, if you think Surrey real estate online right now, my ugly bug is probably the top of the list anywhere. Maybe not on Google searches, but definitely on anything on YouTube or wherever. And it's like, and still there's just no consideration because these guys are connecting with platinum agents that are selling 150 units at a time, which is great. Like that's obviously their business model, but you would figure there would be a bit more of an in. So I'm interested to see how that could work, because I think maybe they just don't want outside opinion. Maybe they want to control everything. I don't know.
I think they just don't get it. I think
maybe probably that. They're just probably, they're developers, they're older, people that have been in the business for a certain amount of time, and it's not even on their radar. That's probably the truth, which is 100%, which is kind of a negative, because it should be on the radar, because it's obvious that people are looking there for help.
It just takes time, and like I'll tell you, here in Toronto, like the younger developers, the young guns who are starting to make their mark in the industry, they are reaching out to the content creators. They are reaching out to the websites and trying to make those connections, saying, look, I know you're not a platinum with our listing brokerage, but I would like to get you involved in this project. Can you come meet us? Because they get it. They understand that, the buyers who are interested potentially in this project, they're watching Tom Storey, they're watching Jordon, they are consuming this content. So it's very beneficial for us if they have something positive to say rather than nothing at all, right? Yeah.
I mean, whether we like to admit it or not, right? You are a pre-construction condo influencer. Like you're an influencer in the, I know, but listen, Jordon. But it's no different than like a company selling like beauty products that reaches out to a girl with 100,000 Instagram followers. Like, please, can you use it? And it's the same thing, right? They want to create that relationship. The one thing I will say, and I don't have any relationships in the pre-con side of things, but Camross Felcorp let me and Eileen Lastwell come in and talk with them for 20 minutes and kind of be like, these are our issues. What's your response? And you know what? They were great. Like it was that Raglan project, and I really, and this interview, by the way, if anyone's interested, will be up on my channel by the time this podcast drops. It was interesting. Like they let us come in as resale agents with concerns, where they were doing all the other ones where it's just the promotional stuff. They're like, sit down, let's chat. And I love that. And I really appreciated it, because I like walked away being like, I still kind of believe what I said before, but like they've changed my mind on a few things.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I think that's the approach the industry is headed in general. Like, I think the opaqueness of the past is starting to wash away, especially with the developers who get it, who have in-house marketing teams who understand the way these things work and get that behind closed doors. A lot of their platinums are just co-oping out units. Like, some developers are starting to understand that. They don't appreciate it because it creates friction between the client in the whole interaction. Something like that creates friction, right? And so they get it.
Is the well going to be one of the most exciting projects ever?
Dude, it's
when it completes? Yeah.
Honestly, it's so sick. Toronto gets a lot of crap for average architecture, bland buildings, not thought through master plan communities or something. The well, literally, it sets the record straight a little bit. Everything about that is proper.
Our brand new office is on that street. So I walk by the well every day, and they're doing the Portland Commons behind us. And I'm like, wow, like, even though it's crazy construction right now and it sucks to try to find parking, like, this area in about a year and a half is just going to be wild. Very, very excited to see how it happens there. Jordon, this was fun. We appreciate you coming back and joining us again on the podcast. As we wrap things up, any final thoughts on just what you're seeing out there in the market that you want to share with the listeners?
No, I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Welcome to the club, man.
Yeah. So take that for what it's worth. Absolutely nothing.
Go check out Jordon's channel, PreCondo, on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to him, because if he beats both me and Steve to 10,000, I'll be happy. If Steve beats me, I won't be happy. So, but I'm okay if Jordon does it. And then for people to reach out to you, is YouTube the best place, or they go to PreCondo?
YouTube, for sure. YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Well, I appreciate everyone listening and everyone watching this episode of the Tom Storey Show. We will see you next Sunday, and have an amazing week. Bye.
Bye. I'm glad this is going to get an automatic.